Okay, life gonna come at you fast. But you know what? You gotta stay ready.
Strong enough, never gave up every time I gave my all. Refuse to fall. Strong enough.
Can't stop, won't stop, keep going, don't stop.
Thanks for tuning in to another episode of Real Estate Mastery with your girl, Jessica Myers. I am the deal maker. And you know what? We come together to break down complex real estate strategies so that you can master them with ease. Today I have joining me Miss Moira Taylor. How are you doing today?
I'm good, Jessica. Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, I am excited. You guys are in for a treat. Anything multifamily, anything that you want to do, count up and rack up the doors. This is the specialist and the person that you come to. Can you speak more to your background, what qualifies you as the specialist, and we can just hop into a conversation from there.
Okay. Well, I am a real estate agent out of Atlanta, Georgia, and I own a property management company and a traditional real estate firm. But we started focusing on property management back in 2014 and fell in love with the multifamily sector. And so now we manage probably several hundred, almost up to 1,000 doors of multifamily units in the Atlanta market, Griffin, just around the Atlanta metropolitan areas.
And now y'all can only imagine what it's like. You heard her say 1,000 doors. See, I'm trying to get to 1,000 doors. And this is my journey to 1,000 doors. And I've learned that it's easier to accumulate them through multifamily.
Yes.
Like, how have you found like the investment space? Because you used to do single family.
Yes.
So how have you found that adding multifamily to your portfolio has allowed you to exponentially get further along your goal?
Well, I would say adding multifamily is A, easier than people think. B, I find it much more lucrative and easier than single family homes. I think people just have a concept that it's a very difficult market to tap into. But once you do, I don't think that people will look back to the single family model of investing.
That's really what I want to peel back into, because like I said, this is really the circle that, you know, when I talk about putting together a deal, the opportunity itself, the skill set and the know-how, and the capital to execute.
Yeah.
So you are very keen on the skill set and the know-how, because what you break down in the numbers for a multifamily, because like you said, it can be very lucrative. Just for example, not that you have to give me any one of your pockets, but just for example, because I really want people to connect with and understand when we say multifamily. For one, like just name one of the units of the property and how much you gross per door.
Sure. So I have a 55 unit.
So a 55 unit apartment unit.
Apartment complex.
Apartment complex.
What it grosses annually is over $650,000.
From one 55 unit, you gross over $600,000 a year.
Correct.
Did y'all hear those numbers? For people that are looking, because one of the things that I always suggest is you have your product, which is real estate.
That's right.
And then you have your strategy, which is the multifamily, the Airbnb. It's a multitude of things can be the strategy, all still focusing on the central part of real estate.
Correct.
And this is a way, so if somebody flips a house and you're talking to somebody who does multifamily, the average person who flips, maybe you make 40, 50, 60,000, one door.
Yeah.
But
in the multifamily arena, if you flip, so let's say, for instance, real life examples of some things going on. We were just looking for a few multifamily deals. As we started peeling back the layers, some of these people bought multifamilies at $12 million that are selling today at $45 million. So, you know, there's a great difference in the flip.
How many doors was that?
That was 276 doors.
So 276 doors, an investor purchased it at $12 million.
Yep.
And how many years did it take to?
So they purchased probably back in 2005.
2005.
Yeah, so they've held quite a long time.
So about 15, but I mean, that's a lot of money to make in 15 years. And I'll settle for making.
While you're still cash flowing.
Yeah.
So the property at that amount, imagine a 55 unit is doing 650,000. So let's just do the math on what a 270 unit would approximately do. So they're probably averaging close to $3 million of gross income.
So you help to manage the portfolio of these as well, these assets as well, to maximize the profits.
Correct.
Can you speak on the importance of like a property management company? Because it's one thing that I just bought a 12 unit, I just bought an 80 unit, I just bought a 200 unit.
Yes.
But here's where we're getting the opportunity, the skill set and the know-how. Like, how do I make sure that, just because I get a 55 unit doesn't mean that I'm gonna make $600,000 a year?
No, it doesn't. And so what I will say is that a property management company, a professional, established, well-seasoned property management company inside the multifamily space, to me, is critical and necessary, especially when you get to 55 units or greater. Typically, you don't see properties of those size be self-managed. And because there's so much of day-to-day, there's a staff that is needed, you have maintenance that's constantly, it's a full, well-oiled machine is how it should run. It's a little business in itself. So it takes a great deal, and that's not to be done by like mom and pop type of style of property management. It won't work.
So what are your top 3 strategies that you employ in the multifamily space that equals a win?
Okay, so I would say number 1 is going to be mindset. So mindset is very big, and what I mean by that is that it's a marathon. It's not a sprint. And oftentimes people get in real estate with the assumption that they're going to make this big, huge profit overnight.
Off one deal.
Off one deal. They're going to bank. They're going to see that $12 million deal and that $45 million. Like they don't see the journey in between of what it takes to get there.
Because that's why I was asking about time too. Because imagine, so you said he bought it in 2005, which was probably stellar.
Yeah.
But then in 2008, I can only imagine,
What
was
happened?
he thinking stellar?
Exactly.
And he waited though.
Yes.
Because one of the things that I want to emphasize when you speak in a mindset, if you get scared and jump off, you actualize the loss.
That's right.
Because if he would have he bought it in 2005. If he would have sold it in 2008, 2009, would he have made $45 million?
No way. No way. Actually, he probably would have obtained a loss, and then somebody else would have went on to get it.
So that's how powerful mindset is.
Yes.
So if mindset would have shifted what his actions would have been, he could have turned what he thought was a win into a loss.
Absolutely.
But because his mindset to hold strong, stand firm, it's almost just like, look, if it's going down, let's just stand firm. Oh, we make it.
Yes.
And now he's able to actualize up to almost a $30 million increase in what he originally paid just from having the right mindset to hold.
Correct. So mindset, I think, is the number 1 thing to understand that it is a marathon, not a sprint. You don't get into this particular sector of real estate to get rich overnight. Okay. It's a lot of money at stake. There's a lot of opportunity for things to go south, a lot of opportunity for things to go great. But if you lose pretty big. But when you win big as well.
So I know we heard about some of the wins. But some of the losses, how does that happen? And how does that impact your journey? Because yes, the mindset keep going, but you talk about a $12 million property.
Sure.
To hold a $12 million property through said recessions and anything else.
Pandemics.
I was gonna say pandemic, but to hold it through all of that, like, you're talking about hundreds of thousands of dollars that could be a loss. Like, how does that marry when I get the rah-rah, let's be positive, but when you lose in real dollars?
Yeah. So 1 is understand what you're walking into. So this isn't a game that you get in by the hair of your chinny chin chin. You need to have some supporting capital that's there. For a time like now. The pandemic is one thing, right? That we just went through, and a lot of landlords lost. A lot of landlords
because
lost.
they sold.
Either because, not necessarily because they sold in this climate, but the one big thing is because of legislation that was out. And so those are the big things.
Because they had the moratorium.
Yes.
Where they could not
evict.
So that caused a lot of people to lose?
Yeah, because as a landlord, you still have to run the day-to-day of your property. So the multifamily industry took probably close to a 5 to 8% hit, depending upon what sector you were in. And if you were in affordable housing, you might have taken a 20% hit to your bottom line.
Now, how does that factor in with the inflation?
Well, You also had increase in pricing. So that's a pretty huge hit on numbers and bottom lines. You also had heavy wear and tear on buildings because most people now they had to be at home. So now you have everyone at home, everyone's running AC, everyone's running heat, everyone's running, everything is full throttle. So you have all this stress that's on the property. So you have increase in expenses, but you have a decrease in the rents that you're collecting because some people lost their jobs, some companies folded. Yeah, so that was a big deal. And now you have the moratoriums that we were happy that, yeah, this is a time that was unprecedented. People, we need to figure it out. But in the meantime, landlords still had to come up with their mortgage payment to pay. And we're talking about notes on a couple of $1 million here. So those are things that it's critical that you get your cash flow. So as time went on in a pandemic, we saw some things improved, and you had to be a little strategic on how you kept your properties afloat. But that was a time you had to buckle down.
So that's when you're talking about so the opportunity itself is the 55 unit.
Yeah.
It's gonna make money, it's not gonna make money, whatever.
Right.
The skill set and the know-how, the strategies to switch in different climates.
That's right.
Is that the power of having a strategic property manager to help you strategize, like for
Sure.
investors that want to be passive?
Sure. Absolutely. So there's a lot of times where we get hired as fixers in the property management industry.
And you said we. What's the name?
Tailor-made
Okay.
property management. So that
tailor-made
is where we focus. So our claim to fame, so to speak, is that we can take an asset that is underperforming and we can turn that into a performing asset. And so we've taken properties that are 50 units, 100 units, 20 units that were underperforming, are really not performing at all. And we've taken them and repositioned rents and repositioned the property, therefore increasing value. So in the multifamily space, what your units rent for heavily affects value as well as comps. So where you have the single family sector where comps are like king because that dictates the value. Well, in the multifamily, it's not only the surrounding comps of what multifamilies have sold for, but what are you getting rent per door? So if I can take an asset that's getting $950 for rent, and I can get rents now at $1,300 to $1,400, and I've repositioned that asset, I have now changed the value substantially for a resale or just from a cash flow perspective.
That's interesting. So let me ask you this, and then we'll get back to the original question. We just kind of, ran off because I love exploring this part of it. But one of the things that I'm often careful of what areas that I buy in.
Yes.
But with you having so many strategies, like we can do a Section 8 in a declining population situation.
Yeah.
Or we can't, there are different strategies to employ. Like, if I am at Piedmont Park and there's an apartment, there's a different strategy there. Is there such thing as a bad deal in the apartment space or in the multifamily space?
Sure, there is. I think location is still going to be king, still inside of real estate, so location. But the beauty of in that rental space with multifamily is that whether you're in a lower income area or income that has, plenty of wealth, people still need a place to stay. It's understanding what you buy that asset for. That's the number one game in anything in real estate. Do you buy it at the appropriate price so that you can turn a profit? So great, you bought a quadruplex for $400,000, and that might seem like a steal. Like, whoa, that's a steal.
$100,000 per unit.
Right, nothing. But rent's $300 or $400 because you bought it into an outer area that's not part of the metropolitan area. So it's understanding your numbers. That's where it's critical to understand and crunch your numbers. Or you can buy it in an area to where the neighborhood is just really on the downside. Meaning that transition, the value add opportunity is going to be really pulling. It's going to be very difficult. I've seen that happen in a few spaces, not very often, but I've seen that happen as well to where it turns into a ghost street, like no one is there. And unless you have the capital to kind of revamp the entire street, I necessarily wouldn't touch it. So yes, there can be bad deals, but most of the time it's about having creativity, having good partnerships in the area, Those are going to be your keys. It's more to turning a profit than just saying putting a rent sign out or putting a post on Zillow or Trulia saying my unit's available.
Yeah.
Do you know how to move that market, that unit? Do you know how to get the maximum dollar for it?
Yeah.
Is love transactional?
What is it? It's so good when you loving somebody and somebody loves you back. You know, you want that and somebody loves you back part.
What is love?
I feel like we just opened up the miseducation of Lauryn Hill.
Honey, what I think you need is a socket wrench.
I played JV basketball.
I'm sorry. I don't think it looks right.
This is good, and it's all good, baby.
Is it really all good?
If you love me enough to routinely test your handyman skills, not to mention the strength of your marriage, then of course you'll visit nhtsa.gov/the-right-seat to make sure I'm in the right car seat.
I'm gonna call my dad.
One of Dr. Gino's strengths in his preaching to me is his ability to situate the listener.
Transition is hard. In fact, I dare say that it's one of the most difficult things to do. And I mean, in a real sense, it is so hard that in one it produces fear.
You pick an image that we all can relate to. What do you love most about your practice of African American preaching? Go.
My practice of African American preaching is steeped in Zora Neale Hurston's Negro expression. When we sing a song, it's sung a lot differently. When we do a dance, it's done a lot differently. When we preach a sermon, it's done a lot differently because we take it through our struggle and we adorn it and beautify it. And we've had to dare to find God and mine hope so that we might be able to know that the trouble that we go through doesn't last always.
Yeah, because even with you saying that, you talk about I think of like the for sale by owner. Like I think it's somebody who's like, you know what, I'll manage this thing all by myself. And what do you say to people that think that, you know what, it's a 250 unit, I'm a because you know, they often look at the spreadsheet and the numbers and be like, you know, if I nixed off what I pay for a property manager, I can manage it my own and keep all the profits.
Yeah.
What do you say to someone like that?
Well, they could. Or I have that happen quite a bit, and then they turn into be my clients. And so what happens is they think that they can self-manage. They've been woken up at 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning because the things are leaking. The tenant is non-responsive or cussing them out, and they're going back and forth with the tenant. They have someone who they can't get out of their unit, and it's been like a year, or yes. So, and then they typically come back to us.
So I think you just listed all the use cases that you definitely need to hire.
Yes.
A property manager.
It's easy when you think it's being ran smooth, but what did you leave on the table? So where you might see your rents are $1,200 or $1,300, I might have partnerships that I know of that I can get you 17 or 18, that I well have earned the 10% that you may have paid me.
Wow, that's very powerful. So getting back to the original question which started this,
yes,
as far as what were the 3 strategies? And you mentioned mindset.
Yes, mindset number 1. So number 2, I would say, let me think of number 2.
Okay, it's fine. It's fine. It'll flow.
Number 2, I would say, is know your data. Know your data. Data is going to be king in the multifamily industry. You have payroll, you have taxes, you have a note, you have all type of expenses that exist. You have insurances. You need to know your data. And you don't pencil a deal to make it fit. The deal just needs to work. And oftentimes people will be looking for these deals and they'll try to just get it to like fit into this mold. And you have to know kind of when to walk away, which kind of leads me to my next point of the strategy is know when you have a deal.
So with all of that said, like, what are those key numbers? Because like you said, you can get lost in the weeds.
Mhm.
I've opened one of your spreadsheets and it's long. You can get lost in the weeds of the numbers of what to know, the data and analyze, and how do you make it all make sense? For one, come to you.
Yeah.
But two, like if I were to do this on my own, like what are the high level numbers or things that determine, or they're the kill switch? Like,
Yeah.
what are the things that are the yay or the nay, the thing that determines that it's not a good deal?
Yeah. So a couple of things. One is going to be how you could, on a really high level, look and analyze a deal within a couple of minutes is take the gross rent income that's performing on the property and 50% of it. You can expect that 50% of that is going to be your cost to run that particular property, especially in the multifamily. So we can use the 50% rule.
So for the unit you mentioned earlier, you said it can gross about $600,000 a year annually. And so you're saying expect at least half of that to be my operating expenses.
Correct. So I expect about $300,000. And so it's to also understand the category that that asset falls into. So from a Class A property, you might operate at 20 or 30% of expenses because nothing typically is breaking, or very few things are. For a B or C class, or particularly a C class property, you might be operating at 60 to 70%, even far off from the 50. So it's to understand the type of class of asset you're walking into. Therefore, you can back your numbers out to your purchase price and purchasing at the right expense.
Now, when you say asset class, what does that qualify as? Asset class, you mean like the pretty nice ones that are by the nice pretty park, like Central Park in New York?
Yeah.
That's more of a Class A, right?
Yeah, well, it could be. So,
or what are the things that qualify a Class A versus a Class B? Is that like A-list celebrity versus B-list celebrity, depending upon what movie they were in?
Correct.
Like,
so
they were in them at-home movies, they're C or D-list.
Correct. So, it's very interesting on how class works inside the multifamily arena. So you can have a C-class property, which are typically like 30, 40, 50-year-old properties, really I would say like 50 or 60-year-old properties there. And it's also the area. So the area also dictates. So you can have a new construction, but it is in a rough area that may now bring an A asset down to a B because of the area, but it's new construction. So it's to kind of understand, you have to understand the nuances of how that works. And that's why it's critical for your areas of where you're purchasing and to understand the type of asset that it is.
Wow. So we discussed a lot of the losses and way to mitigate losses through mindset and things like that. What has been a win?
There have been several wins.
What's one of the highest win that I feel like someone else can replicate and duplicate that success?
Sure. So,
not anomaly, not all the windows, right? And it worked. Yeah. But what is a duplicatable, replicatable success and win that you found?
Sure. So what I will say are two approaches. One are going to be a value add opportunity.
And by value add, that's almost like what we in the single family space may call a flip. Or something where you're buying at pennies on the dollar because it may need work.
Yes, correct. So you're buying it because it's not functioning well. It's not functioning well. And I would say one of the greatest wins, actually, and one of my first wins was I had a client who bought a small 15-unit apartment, and they bought it. And at the time, it was less than 50% occupied. The whole second floor was like, I didn't understand how people were living in the building. I did not understand because the whole second floor had water damage. The people who were there, they were paying rent of $400 to $500. I think $550 was the highest rent. We went in and we renovated the building space, and we turned those rents into, for the new people coming in, we were renting at $950 from like $400. And what you have to understand from that is that most of the time when people do a renovation in the multifamily space, let's just say you're at your regular apartment complex, they come in and do a small upgrade. Maybe they put in granite countertops or they put new floors in. Typically that only yields maybe $50 to $100 and $175 difference in rent. $175 is pushing it. Typically $50 to $100 100, maybe 125 is the difference you'll get on rent just from the general market space. So to take an asset that was in that and add almost $500 to the rent per door substantially changed the value. So this is an asset that he bought at $350,000 and later went on to sell for $1.5 million.
See, this is what I mean when I talk about collaborative economics and net worth thing, because you can take something that could have been a loss.
Yeah.
That if someone was just regular degular, they would have broken even.
Yeah.
But in the midst, you did a 200% increase in rents because of the strategies that you were able to employ.
Correct.
That's what it means, the power of your net worth equaling your net worth.
Yes.
Because you immediately went, because how many doors was that?
15.
So in 15 doors, you were able to incrementally increase rents 200% for 15 doors, which increases and falls down to the bottom line.
Correct. Correct.
I mean, who isn't having someone like this in their back pocket?
Exactly.
Like, do you consult with people? Like, I get, like, cool, the property management company is here. And then you also train and help other real estate agents.
Yes. So we do have a real estate school called Cutting Edge Institute where we train people, to get their license. So if they want to become a licensed agent, we provide that education for them. We provide property management education. So for that owner who wants to kind of DIY it, but if you're going to DIY it, here's some things that you need to know. Here's some parameters that you need to walk within. So we teach them that, as well as continuing education where we offer courses on investment, how to structure a real estate portfolio, how to analyze a deal, different softwares that we can use to analyze deals.
I think that key element of continuing education. Because and that's one thing you can take for granted. You can take for granted that you learn something, but that's just like when I first got my phone, my Nokia, when I was in high school, and I could play Snake. Don't nobody challenge me. I could beat you with Snake at any time. But imagine if I were still using that phone today.
Yeah.
How limited I would be if I didn't continue to get upgrades, get new technology, get new elements. That is the point of tapping in with continued education. That is the power because, like you said, you go through, the economy is going to go through ups, downs. Because people say, oh, no, we're going through a recession. Well, we were just in a recession. That's kind of how cycles work.
That's right.
Kind of, it's like saying, oh, no, it's a full moon. Oh, no, it's a new moon. Like, it's a cycle and the phases of what it is. But it's understanding how to navigate through those different phases by doing continued education courses.
Yes, absolutely. You asked for the 3 strategies, but I want to add a 4th, and that's know your craft. Know your craft. Be a student. And that's one of the biggest things people ask me how I got started in this. I was a student.
Would you say that the pandemic has been a trauma for citizens around the globe?
Trauma walks with us through life, through things we see, through communities we live in, through experiences that we've been exposed to. So, the pandemic kind of took all that stuff that was back there that we really haven't addressed and says, oh, well, hold up. I got another story to tell you.
The family's visit to the forest inspired a beautiful question. Mother, mother, am I a tree? You tell me to stand tall. You tell me to stay rooted. I think I am a tree. My child, of course you are. But what kind of tree will you be? The kind to hug or the kind to climb? Doesn't matter what you choose, so long as you choose to be a tree that's kind.
Make the forest part of your story at a park near you. Find one at discovertheforest.org.
Well, look, you might not be popular, but my favorite character is Celestial because
one of the quotes that I wrote down in the book that kind of stood out to me was, "Love is the enemy of sound judgment."
She seemed like a very needy woman. And I can't even respect Andre because how do you prey on your friend's wife while he's incarcerated? I just can't get with that. And maybe I got too invested in the book,
I must have spent hours on any, at the time, free information that I can get my hands on from YouTube University.
Yeah, me too.
And I learned so much. And then I dug in. So I would start calling other listing brokers. And at the time, it was a very small market of the few brokers. And they did not want to give me the time of day. And when I could get one on the phone, I would try to just ask as many questions as I could, throw out language, and they would throw out language, and I would have to go read what it was. So I would have to go read, well, what is a T12? And I have to go Google it. So those are things, well, what is a gross multiple? Like, what is gross rent? What does that mean? What is a multiplier? What do they use? So I Googled for months. My head was in the books. And so I became a student. And so know your craft. And I do that to this day. I am subscribed to the Multifamily Insider. I'm subscribed to all these different platforms.
What are some other publications that you're subscribed to?
So the Multifamily Insider. I constantly look on the blog posts of stuff like LoopNet and Crexy. I'm constantly staying connected to that, the LIHTC compliance world. I constantly stay connected to those magazines, and I read. And of course, I take courses. Every year, I'm reading the HUD letters that actually come out when they're 50 and 60 pages. I'm reading that. But we have to stay on top of what we do. So,
yeah, I would say for that, for anybody who's like looking for a coach or anything like that, what are you reading? How many publications are you subscribed to? Because you want to know and make sure you're getting the latest and greatest information.
That's right.
And somebody who's out here actually in the field doing.
That's right.
Like they say, a guru, not a guru.
Yes.
Like not somebody who just has the book knowledge but has the application to go with it.
Yes, you have to be able to adapt in this, and you got to stay current in order to do so.
What's the funnest part about this for you? In the midst, because I know you often find yourself problem solving, coming up with creative solutions. I know you guys are good that you are able to maximize rents at any property, but where does the fun come in it for you?
Well, one, I think for us, our work culture. So our staff, we like each other, actually. We create a very fun, open environment for us to work, number one. Number two, I would say is it's never dull because we are dealing with people. And when you deal with people, it becomes very interesting, other things you come across, especially we're right here where they live. So we're essentially in their home. So it can be a little...
You're dealing with situations you need, like, why am I in your marriage?
Why am I?
Your breakup shouldn't have anything to do with me, but yet your breakup is here.
And your next door neighbor, he was over there just the other day. So it does become a little...
Oh, y'all got gossip. Like, I saw him go in that person's apartment.
Yeah, so we do know that. We keep it confidential, but sometimes it's...
There may need to be a show around that. I'm sensing there may need
Yeah,
to be a show.
it's definitely entertaining at times, but it's rewarding. It's very rewarding for us because we get to create home. We actually are directly impacting the quality of people's lives. And so how we take our job, we take it very serious because no one wants to live in an area that's not capped, where something isn't maintained, where they don't feel secure for them and their kids. And so we take that with pride,
Yeah, I mean, I think the most dynamic part about this conversation and the understanding for me is, like you said, one unit generated $600,000 a year.
Yeah, one property.
And that's multiple units that's in the portfolio.
Yes.
And that's the power of what multifamily can do and expand what you're doing in real estate. What would you tell somebody that's, we've been doing single family, we got money saved up. How much money should they look at before even looking into the multifamily space? And what is a practical step that they can take to start tomorrow?
Okay, great question. So typically in any deal, you need to be prepared to put down 25 to 30% in the multifamily space. So to understand your market, you need to understand what doors, we reference them as doors or units, are selling. So per door or per unit fee. So it's to understand, like in our particular climate, clients are looking for $150,000 to $180,000 a door. That's understanding our market. So if they want 50 units or 100 units, that lets me know at $160,000 a door, let's say, they need to have a price point of about $16 million.
Okay.
So now they need to at least be liquid enough to do 25 to 30% of that. So
Okay.
that's on the grand scheme of things, but you don't have to walk in the door with a 100 unit, right?
Because I was like, okay, well, I'll be saving a little bit more.
So, but you can do a duplex. Most people don't understand that they can use the same financing that they would purchase like a single family home. You can purchase up to a 4 unit. So you can purchase up to a quadruplex with it. So to me, that's a good entryway of saying, hey, I can use an FHA loan, a Fannie Mae loan, and only put down 3.5 to 5% down of something that may be $400,000 to $500,000. So that to me is a good entry point.
Okay. Well, I mean, I feel like that's been a wealth of knowledge just right there. Understanding too how to make it practical and something that is simple and like, okay, you know what? Maybe I don't go 100 doors for my first one, but there is something where I can come here. And there's ways that I can get education and tapped in for continued education and how I can understand the numbers through and through, because that's going to be the thing that makes or breaks a deal. It's one thing to understand that this is the cash I'm going to have.
Yes.
But what are the other containers or numbers that I should be concerned about? What are ways that people get to know you, get to see you, and get to contact you and interact with you?
Sure. Well, one way is they can look us up on the web, our website. So our website is www.tailormadepm.com.
And so that is tailor-made, PMs as in property manager.
And that's
.com.
Taylor, Taylor, and Made is MADE. PM.com, and that is for the property management sector.
Okay, got it.
And then also they can reach us for the education at cuttingedgeinstitute.com, or they can look us up really easy, CEI realestateschool.com. That's C as in Charlie, E as in elephant, I as in ice, realestateschool.com. They can also check us out on Instagram at TaylorMadePM and Cutting Edge Institute.
Got it. If you guys want to tap in and stay close to the source, I'm telling you, I'm bringing the heat. I'm bringing the fire. These are elevated conversations for how you too can master real estate and get everything you need to grow and increase your portfolio. Any final words?
Step out there. I never dreamed that I would be doing what I do now. I never dreamed that I would touch as much money as I've touched. But real estate has fundamentally changed my life. It did it at a very young age, and I fell in love with it. That affords me the life that I have now. So one, jump into the space, get connected. Don't be afraid to invest into your future. And I would say go for it.
Yeah. Like she said, don't be afraid. That goes back to your first point, mindset. So you know what? You already know what time it is. Be sure to join us for another episode. This has been Real Estate Mastery with the Deal Maker, your girl, Jessica Myers. You know you got it. Let's get it.
Strong enough, never gave up every time I gave my all. Refuse to fall. Strong enough.
Can't stop, won't stop, keep going, don't stop.
You gotta push through. You gotta keep believing in yourself because you know you got it. So let's get it. Let's go.